Hello, God bless everyone today. This is Laurie from Spirit Warriors of Christ, and I come to you today with a message about one of the other deadly sins called lust. Craving or lusting is more than inappropriate sexual desire. It can be an unnatural or greedy desire for anything: sports, knowledge, possessions, influence over others. In this circumstance, God punished the Israelites for craving good food. Their desire was not wrong. The sin was in allowing that desire to turn to greed. They felt it was their right to have fine food, and they could think of nothing else. When you become preoccupied with something until it affects your perspective on everything else, you have moved from desire to lust. Numbers 11:34 records in the King James Version, and he called the name of that place Kibroth Hattaavah, because there they buried the people that lusted. Let's put it all into perspective. Love and lust are very different. After Ammon raped his half-sister, his love turned to hate. Although he had claimed to be in love, he was actually overcome by lust. Love is patient. Lust requires immediate satisfaction. Love is kind. Lust is harsh. Love does not demand its own way. Lust does. You can read about the characteristics of real love in 1 Corinthians 13. Lust may feel like love at first, but when physically expressed, it results in self-disgust and hatred of the other person. If you can't wait, what you feel is not true love. This lust is also used for feeling in control or control of another person. 2 Samuel 13:14 records from the King James Version, "Howbeit he would not hearken unto her voice, but being stronger than she, forced her and lay with her. Then Ammon hated her exceedingly, so that the hatred wherewith he had loved her. And Ammon said unto her, Arise, be gone." Paul says that love is patient. Sometimes we're irritated or angered by others, and we don't know why. Not all irritability stems from sinful or selfish motives, although the irritable treatment of others surely is wrong. Much irritability comes from a love of perfection, a deep desire that programs, meetings, and structures be run perfectly. A desire to run things perfectly can erupt into anger at events or people who get in the way or ruin that desire. Those who are easily irritated need to remember that perfection exists only in God. We need to love Him and our fellow Christians, not the vision we have for perfection here on earth. Our society confuses love and lust. God's kind of love is directed outwards towards others, not inward towards ourselves. It is utterly selfish. This kind of love goes against our natural inclinations. It is possible to practice this love only if it helps us set aside our own desires and instincts so that we can give love while expecting nothing in return. Thus, the more we become like Christ, the more love we will show to others. 1 Corinthians 13:4-7 records, "Charity suffereth long, and is kind. Charity envieth not. Charity vaunteth not. Itself is not puffed up. Doth not behave itself unseemingly. Seeketh not her own. Is not easily provoked. Thinketh no evil. Rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in truth. Beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things." Solomon handled great pressures in running the government, but he could not handle the pressure from his wives who wanted him to worship their gods. In marriage and close friendships, it is difficult to resist pressure to compromise. Our love leads us to identify with the desires of those we care about. Faced with such pressure, Solomon at first resisted. Maintaining pure faith. Then he tolerated a more widespread practice of idolatry. Finally, he became involved in idolatrous worship, rationalizing away the potential danger to himself and the kingdom. Because we want to please and identify with our loved ones, God asks us not to marry those who do not share our commitment to Him. The Old Testament law said to have sex, The Old Testament law said that it is wrong for a person to have sex with someone other than his or her spouse. Exodus 20:14. But Jesus said that the desire to have sex with someone other than your spouse is mental adultery, and thus a sin. Jesus emphasized that if the act is wrong, then so is the intention. To be faithful to your spouse with your body, but not your mind, is to break the trust so vital to a strong marriage. Jesus is not condemning natural interest in the opposite sex, or even healthy sexual desire, but the deliberate and repeated filling of one's mind with fantasies that would be evil if acted out. Some think that if lustful thoughts are sin, why shouldn't the lustful actions too? Acting out sinful desires is harmful in several ways. 1, it causes people to excuse sin rather than to stop the sinning. 2, it destroys marriages. 3, it is deliberate rebellion against God's word. 4, it always hurts someone else in addition to the sinner. Sinful action is more dangerous than sinful desires, and that is why desires should not be acted out. Nevertheless, damaging sinful desires is just as damaging to righteousness. Left unchecked, wrongful desires will result in wrong actions and turn people away from God. Matthew 5:27 and 28 records, Ye have heard that it was said by them of old times, Thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say unto you, that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her, hath committed adultery with her already in his heart. In this episode with Bathsheba, David allowed himself to fall deeper and deeper into sin. 1. David abandoned his purpose by staying home from the war. 2. He focused on his own desires. 3. When temptation came, he looked into it instead of turning away from it. 4. He sinned deliberately. That was 5. 5 is he sinned deliberately. He tried to cover up his sin by deceiving others. 6. He committed murder to continually cover up. Eventually, David's sin was exposed and punished. 7. The consequences of David's sin were far-reaching, affecting many others. David could have chosen to stop and turn from evil at any stage along the way. But once sin gets started, it is difficult to stop. James 1:14 and 15. The deeper the mess, the less we want to admit having caused it. It's much easier to stop sliding down a hill when you are near the top than if you are halfway down. The best solution is to stop sin before it starts. 2 Samuel 11:1 and 2 records, And it came to pass after the year was expired, at the time when kings go forth to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him, and all Israel. And they destroyed the children of Ammon and besieged Rabbah, but David tarried still at Jerusalem. And it came to pass in an evening tide that David arose from off his bed and walked upon the roof of the king's house. And from the roof he saw a woman washing herself, and the woman was very beautiful to look upon. David would ultimately act on his desires, committing adultery with Bathsheba, killing her husband, then marrying her. Today, sex is a delicacy and desired above many other things, many other sins. The night refers to the present evil time. The day refers to the time of Christ's return. Some people are surprised that Paul lists dissension and jealousy with the gross and obvious sins of orgies, drunkenness, and sexual immorality. Like Jesus in his Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5-7, Paul considers attitudes as important as actions. Just as hatred leads to murder, so jealousy leads to strife, and lust to adultery. When Christ returns, he wants to find people clean on the inside as well as the outside. Romans 13:12 through 14 records, after he had washed their feet and had taken his garments and was set down again, he said unto them, Know ye what I have done? Know what ye I have done to you. Ye call me Master and Lord, and ye say, Well, for so I am. If I then, your Lord and Master, have washed your feet, ye also ought to wash one another's feet. And I hope you learned something about sin. The sin of lust. Lust is a vast subject and can be used in various ways. There are many explanations of lust. I thank you for watching. God bless you all. Have a great day.